KNUS Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, September 19th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710, KNUS. Our friends over with CPAN, the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network, is hosting Trevor Loudon tonight. Great event coming here to the Denver metro area. We're going to talk with Trevor about what the event's all about, how he's doing. We'll check in the work he's doing. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. Now is time for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. Friday and 57 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 79 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, top Biden official Jeff Zients has testified before Congress that Biden could not remember names, dates, and required extra meetings to make decisions. What a shocker. He said instead of having 3 meetings before making a decision, for example, Biden would want 4. He also said Hunter Biden got involved in issuing pardons, according to Axios. Chuck Schumer and Democrats in Congress demanding free health care insurance for illegals, $500 million for NPR, and a $1.5 trillion spending increase in exchange for averting a government shutdown. Mike Johnson and the Republicans, they have to stand strong.
Is we offered a totally clean short-term CR to get that job done. Chuck Schumer saw that. He returned a counteroffer that is filled with partisan wish lists and poison pills and demands. It includes, for example, Brett, what Chuck Schumer is arguing for. He wants to reinstate free health care for illegal aliens. He wants to add $500 million to prop up liberal media outlets. And he wants to add a massive $1.4 trillion spending hike to what should be a simple 7-week stopgap funding measure.
Don't do it. A 17-year-old boy was shot and killed by police Thursday after allegedly calling 911 and threatening to attack a gas station.
It's a tragic event. There is no getting around it. When you have a suspect himself who calls and says that he plans on shooting up a location, and he also has a gun and he wants to shoot at police officers, that's concerning.
Aurora Police Chief Todd Chamberlain says officers used rubber rounds that failed to stop the teen before he charged at them with his hands concealed. One officer then fired, striking the suspect, who later died at the hospital. A vigil at CSU last night honored Charlie Kirk at Canvas Stadium. There were also some groups on the left there. Isabel Brown, a Colorado native, started the CSU chapter and one of those impressive young leaders who've helped make Turning Point USA what it is today.
We've lost our friend, we've lost our brother, we've lost truly the leader of the conservative movement, someone who set the moral tone for what we're fighting for this next generation.
And the left trying to milk the Jimmy Kimmel story as long as they can. Scott Jennings sets the clown straight at CNN again.
These local affiliates who have to live by these public interest rules finally getting a chance to push back against the networks, the programmers. It was his view that for too long, the programmers, the networks, had too much power over these affiliates and had basically been able to boss them around. We have to live by these rules. We have to live under the public interest rules. We don't particularly like to air this. We're the ones hearing about it from our viewers and from our advertisers, and we're finally pushing back on it. Well, I think
that was after talking to the FCC director. Erica Kirk is the new CEO of Turning Point, and here's the broadcast when Charlie revealed that Erica is more conservative than him.
Asked the audience for questions. You pick one.
Who is more conservative and why?
Erica.
Yes.
By far. Not even close. I am a moderate compared to Erica.
Andrew always jokes that once you got married to me, you got more based.
That's true. That is true. No, Erica is very conservative. Do you think having kids made you more conservative?
100%. Which I didn't think was possible.
Amen. Rest in peace, Charlie. Bills beat the Dolphins 31-21. Broncos at the Chargers on Sunday. College football Saturday. Boise State at Air Force. Texas San Antonio at CSU. UNC at Houston Christian. It is 56 in Erie, 55 in Arvada, 57 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very pleasant September weather for Denver in the Front Range today, tomorrow, and as we head on into the weekend. Temperatures will be 70s today and sunny, 75 to 80 and sunny on Friday. Will be around the lower to mid-80s for the weekend. The weekend might bring one or two isolated thunderstorms. Weather's a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So you all remember seeing that video of Solomon Galligan trying to kidnap a kid off of a playground here in the Cherry Creek School District. And that is part of a broader effort by Democrats to release these criminals out into the street, signed by Jared Polis. And one of the organizations fighting back, raising awareness of what these laws have done that directly threatens your families is the Colorado Parents Advocacy Network. They've held press conferences, rallies, trying to get the Democrat leadership in the state of Colorado to go back on some of these laws that they've passed that have made our communities more dangerous. And they're hosting a great fundraiser tonight that includes Biff Gore, Aaron Lee, and Trevor Loudon joining us now. Very honored to have him with us. Trevor Loudon, New Zealand author, speaker, political activist, blogger. Good morning, Mr. Loudon. Thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. Thanks for the time.
Hey, guys. It's good to see you both, and been a while, but thanks for having me on this morning.
Glad to have you here in Colorado. You're going to be joining CPAN tonight for their event. What are you guys going to be talking about? What are you hoping to raise some money to do?
Well, look, there are many great conservative groups in the country, pushing back for freedom, pushing back the socialism. You've got Tom Fitton's Judicial Watch, which is very effective. You've got the late Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, which has impacted millions of people around the world. But I think in Colorado, the most effective organization is CPAN. Their techniques, their programs are emulated all over the country. They've been pushing ballot measures. They've done very successful counter lawfare against the sort of Democrat state. They are the best advocacy for families and children around. So I was very, very pleased to be invited to address them tonight. So, I want to highlight their work, but I also want to. My expertise is Marxism, revolutionaries, how these revolutionary groups impact the whole society way out of proportion to their numbers. So I'm gonna talk about how that's done, how Colorado went blue, how that's impacting our children, how the Marxists and the socialists work within the Democratic Party and other groups to do that, and talk about how to push back, and also to, which I think is very important, to talk about why we do what we do, why working for freedom is so important, why it's a godly thing to do, why that fighting for our kids is one of the most, is an obligation. It is one of the most noble things we can do. So I want to plumb the depths a little bit, but I also want to leave people with a lot of hope, a lot of enthusiasm going forward, and a lot of enthusiasm for supporting the work of CPAN and Laurie and others in her team.
The Colorado Parents Advocacy Network is hosting their tribute gala tonight, 6 p.m. at the Vehicle Vault in Parker. If you go to coloradoparents.org/events, coloradoparents.org/events, you can hear from some great people. Biff Gore will be emceeing the evening. Aaron Lee, great friend of the program, powerful, strong Mama Bear will be there as well. Trevor Loudon will be the keynote speaker, as well as video tributes coming from Dr. Alveda King and James Lindsay. It's looking to be a wonderful evening. Now, Trevor, in light of what you were talking about, being an expert in Marxism, let's talk about where we are as a country right now. Debates we've had all week long on this show is, can we even possibly move forward in this divided nation right now? You have one side that believes in America's founding principles, that our rights come from God, for instance. Another side that has embraced a Marxist worldview of oppressor versus oppressed, critical theory. We're going to divide everybody into different categories, pit them against each other. The most oppressed out there has the green light to do whatever they want against Jews that may be on college campuses, for instance. Can we talk about whether or not America can even move forward with this type of divide? Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, and this divide has been growing for 100 years now. It started out with the work of the Communist Party USA, who got into the churches, who got into the journalism schools, the teachers' training colleges, aided and abetted by the Soviet Union. And now it's still going forward. And we need to understand this is foreign directed. What we call the woke movement in the United States is directed by China. It's directed by foreign actors like the Cubans, the Iranians, even the Russians are still involved in this. So we've got to understand the mechanism. And President Trump's been taking some good measures lately, classifying Antifa as a terrorist group, going after defunding woke organizations, stopping the flow of taxpayers' money to all these foreign-directed groups, etc. So look, what we need is a general raising of public understanding of the threat, how what we call wokeism is really a Chinese program directed against this country. We need to use executive power to defund these groups, expose these groups, and some people have to be up on criminal charges for working basically as foreign agents in this country. So, yeah, I absolutely think this can be turned around. I think if you look at COVID and the favor that country did to it, the Chinese gave it to us, but they didn't reckon on the millions of American families who would finally get to understand what their kids were reading in their textbooks, sitting on their kids' school Zoom sessions, and were absolutely horrified. We saw Black Lives Matter, another Chinese operation rampaging through our streets, and people finally understood how fractured this country is. And we see that this led to the growth of organizations like Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, organizations like CPAN and others. So that this polarization is getting intense, but we've got to understand the good guys have to win this. Millions of Americans are getting off the fence now. Millions of Americans were sitting in the middle while the conservatives were on one side and the communists were on the other, and they didn't want to get involved in the battle. And the communists would tend to win. The socialists and Marxists would tend to get their policies pushed through. But now the seesaw is moving in our direction. Millions of people have seen evil up close. They've seen the open borders. They've seen the indoctrination. They've seen the lopsided justice system. They've seen the deep state going after their enemies. And they've finally woken up to the fact that we could lose this country, and we better darn well push back. And now the churches are getting involved. More people are going to church again now. People are seeing the crisis and pushing forward. And I think Charlie Kirk's tragic death recently is going to energize even more people to do the right thing. So yes, we can win this. We've got to stop funding and supporting the left. We've got to get them out of our schools, get the government out of our central government out of our schools, and if we do that, we will change the culture. And if we change the culture, we will change the politics.
That's Trevor Loudon. He's the author of the book Enemies Within: Communists, Socialists, and Progressives in U.S. Congress. He's speaking tonight with a great organization, the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network. They're hosting their tribute gala, an evening of celebration, hope, and strength. Tonight, 6 p.m. Tickets available if you go to coloradoparents.org/events, coloradoparents.org/events. Now, CPAN really focused in on empowering parents. Help our audience understand, Trevor Loudon, how communists, socialists, progressives look at the American family, why they're so motivated to try to break it up, going back to, even Hillary Clinton's comments like it takes a village, getting to kind of a collective understanding of raising kids as opposed to keeping it centralized and strengthening a mom and a dad in a committed monogamous relationship raising their kids. Why is it so important for communists to try to destroy the family?
Well, if you look at, what we're facing here, this is a demonic thing, Look, we have a godly order, God, man, nature, the family structure. We were given 3 institutions to rule, to protect our lives. We were given the family, the church, and civil government. And so the Marxists have gone over after all 3. But the most important, really, very important to most of us, is the family structure. The mum, the dad, the kids, and the extended family around that. That is the bedrock of any society. So it's no accident that Karl Marx, the great revolutionary, the basically a Satanist by his own admission. Read the great book Marx and Satan by my friend Paul Kengor, if you want proof of that. One of the top planks in the Communist Manifesto was the abolition of the family. If you want to remake society into a communist, top-down totalitarian state, you have to remove the bedrock structure, which is the family, which is why the communists promoted the radical feminist movement. The communists like Harry Hay started the gay rights movement. The communists are deeply, deeply embedded in the transgender movement because all of these things, plus other things like no-fault divorce, a lot of the family law that's been instituted, the horrors that Aaron Lee has exposed in Colorado with actual grooming situations being set up in schools where troubled young kids are drawn into art clubs and things like this, where they're taught transgender ideology and encouraged to transition behind their parents' backs. All of this has Marxist roots, all of it, because Karl Marx said you have to abolish the family. And I think we all acknowledge that the family structures in this country have deteriorated tremendously since the 50s and the 60s. When the Frankfurt School, another Marxist institution, taught us all to make love, not war, and free love and all this kind of thing. All of that was aimed at destroying the bedrock of our society so the Marxists could replace it with something else. So we have to see all these attacks on the family in context. They're not just crazy liberals doing stupid things. There's a very coordinated program by the Communist Party and its descendants like Democratic Socialists of America and Freedom Road Socialist Organization, all of which are very active in Colorado, all of which work within the Democratic Party here in Colorado to enact laws and create programs that break down the family structure. This is not accidental. This is deliberate. And I think we're long past the point where we can think this is just stupid liberals doing stupid things. You've got evil going on in your state legislature. When you are allowing kids, when you are stopping parents from transitioning their pubescent kids, when you are keeping kids out of the control of their parents and giving them to left-wing teachers to brainwash, that's not stupid liberals. That's evil. That's Marxism. And we're seeing that in Colorado right now. Colorado is ground zero for this kind of stuff.
That's Trevor Loudon. He's the featured speaker tonight. An event CPAN is hosting. Colorado Parents Advocacy Network kicks off at 6 o'clock tonight. coloradoparents.org/events. coloradoparents.org/events to get your tickets. Now, Trevor, want to ask you a little bit more about the idea of communists and Marxists destroying the family and who's involved. Would you lump Russia into a country that is communist and Marxist, or are they outside of it in your purview here?
Yeah, well, look, a lot of Americans have bought the line that Russia is now a Christian country and a conservative country because they clamp down on the radical gay movement and that kind of thing. Look, Vladimir Putin has convened 3 major youth conferences since 2017. The first one was in Sochi, Russia, in October 2017. And he keynoted it and organized it, and he told the kids assembled there, the future is yours, go for it. These were not young Christian kids. These were communist kids. That 2017 event was to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. He held another one in Moscow in 2023 and another one in 2022, inviting young communists from all over the world. But he's managed to sell. There's been a 25-year program by the Russians to sell American Christians and conservatives on the idea that Russia is now Christian, conservative, and supports what American Christians do. Look, it's fantasy. It's designed to divide the American conservative movement and take American conservatives out of the fight. You know, the abortion rate in Russia is something like 4 times that of America. Church-going rate is something like a quarter. 4% of Russians go to church at Easter and Christmas. It's massively higher than that in America. And then you got to understand the Russian Orthodox Church, which you basically have to belong to be a Christian in Russia, is completely controlled by the KGB. All the American churches that went into Russia in the early 90s with the hope of evangelizing Russia and, just spreading Christianity all through Russia, they're all gone. The anti-proselytization laws shut them down. The Russians confiscated the big churches they built and turned them into government buildings, etc. So, no, I think Russia on foreign policy is still very aligned to China, to Nicaragua, to Cuba. So, yes, I think Russia acts very much as part of the modern communist movement.
That really cool accented voice is that of Trevor Loudon. He is the featured speaker tonight at CPAN, Colorado Parents Advocacy Network. They're doing a gala event tonight. Starts at 6 o'clock. You can still get tickets. Check them out, coloradoparents.org, coloradoparents.org/events. Now, Trevor, where I want to go with this, and it may not be a fair question, is... But Tucker Carlson recently told us that Russia's fantastic. He even walked us through their supermarkets and said, look at all of this election and how wonderful their subway system was and their streets were clean. Was Tucker wrong, or had he been taken, or I guess you'd say brought in to the allure of what you have outlined Russia has been doing to America and American Christians over the past 25 years? Did he fall victim, or what was he doing?
Well, he's definitely fallen victim, but I think it's worse than that. Like, a friend sent me an email last night about some information that came out of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, that Tucker Carlson has been paid by Iran to give favourable interviews to the Iranian Prime Minister, for instance. Iran is an ally to Russia. You know, when look, Tucker Carlson openly says, and I've got him on tape multiple times, says, I'm rooting for Russia, okay? He went over there and did an interview with Alexander Dugin, who is Putin's brain, and portrayed him like he was something like Grandpa Walter. You know, he was this kindly old guy. Alexander Dugin is the hero of fascists and communists all over the world and is openly calling for civil war and the destruction of the United States. And Tucker Carlson made him look like he was a little saint. He went and did an interview with Vladimir Putin, totally softball, totally, no hard questions whatsoever. It was a pure Russian propaganda exercise. And Russia is behind, very much allied with Hamas, who's destroying Israel, trying to destroy Israel right now. So that is why Tucker Carlson, in my opinion, is turning very, very anti-Israel. Look, Tucker Carlson has earned a lot of credit from a lot of people by being conservative when it wasn't popular to be so. But in recent years, he has very much turned into a shield for the Russians and the Iranians. And I think it's beyond just stupidity. You know, when he's taking, apparently, it seems, Iranian money, that's something again.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah,
Trevor
thank you.
Loudon, he's a New Zealand author, speaker, political activist, and blogger. He's going to be speaking tonight at an event hosted by the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network, CPAN, doing wonderful work. You've probably seen those videos of Solomon Galligan trying to kidnap a kid off of the playground here in the Cherry Creek School District. Well, they're calling out the DA out. They're holding press conferences. They're trying to get your communities to be safer, return rights back to families, fight the communist Marxists in our school system. All of that being done by CPAN. They're hosting a gala tonight, 6 p.m., the Vehicle Vault, Parker, Colorado. Go to coloradoparents.org/events, coloradoparents.org/events. If you want to follow Trevor Loudon, his website is trevorloudon.com. Trevor, LOUDON.com. Mr. Loudon, appreciate your time this morning.
Yes, thank you so
sir.
much. You've been so generous. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure. Hope to see you tonight.
TrevorLoudon.com if you want to read more about
cool.
him. Stephen texting in. Trevor, outstanding. Appreciated hearing from him. All right, we are going to wrap the week as we do on Fridays with a little cowboy poetry. Jeff Hildebrandt will be joining us next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's an audience favorite. Fridays in the last part of the show, we love to do a little cowboy poetry with Jeff Hildebrandt, our resident cowboy poet laureate. He lives in a closet the rest of the week. We pull him out for this
I come out of the closet. Is that what you're saying?
For this one little thing.
All right, I am going to start with a Jimmy Kimmel commentary.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
I dare not get political to ensure my job retention, so I'll withhold some comments that could lead to rhyme suspension. Besides, what good does it do us to fan the fires of hate? Instead, just show compassion and find ways to relate with opinions that may differ. Don't let anger and frustration boil over into violence that can split apart our nation. While people look for Band-Aids to stop the pain and bleeding, I suggest we look for love. More God is what we're needing.
Oof, man.
How was this last week?
That's great.
Jeff Hildebrandt, looking back on history, I think you probably remember some of the other big moments in American history where there were assassination attempts or major political figures died. Can you give us a little bit of your reflection on this last week?
No. September's a bad month.
Yeah. So September 11th?
Yeah. Well, there's good that comes from bad, individually, and we have to keep that in mind because each of us is an individual. So I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but for me personally, 9/11 led to something that I never imagined would happen, and that was appearing at Carnegie Hall 3 years later because of what I wrote after 9/11. So, and it's like being fired. I've mentioned this before. I have always taken the stance that I've been fired up when I've been let go from a job because I've always gotten a better one and been able to do things that I felt were more what I should be doing than what I was doing. So losing a job forced me into looking closely at what I was doing and what I wanted to do and how I could do it, and it gave me time to do it. So I think I have been as obscure as I can be with my answer.
I think that's a fine answer. That's Jeff Hildebrandt. He's our cowboy poet laureate here at 710 KNUS. What else you got for us?
Okay, I have, as some of you know, and I think I mentioned, for about 8 years, I was a first responder. I was an EMT and a firefighter. And I just noticed that there is going to be something at Park Meadows on Saturday from 11 to 3, somewhere in the Vistas at Park Meadows. And I don't know where that is, but you may. Anyway, it's called First Responder Fun Fest. And there's a lot of people who are going to be over there. It's games and just partying for kids, and it's a family event. So it brought to mind this poem. We hear a lot of praise these days for those who first respond to a crisis situation. Their actions go beyond what seems to be safe limits. Their lives are on the line, and yet, when they're needed, first responders really shine. Now, the very first responder, you may not realize, showed up to rescue everyone who faced a sure demise. Disease had hardened human hearts and led to demonstrations that divided people's loyalty with godless complications. The solution for that deadly curse can still be yours today. All you have to do is ask. Just close your eyes and pray for Jesus Christ to save you. Please don't wait any longer. The time is short, so call for help from Christ, the first responder.
That's great.
That's fantastic.
That was great. Now, when you were a
Thanks.
first responder, were you ambulance? Were you firefighter?
Yeah, both.
Or you were both?
Both, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, primarily ambulance, but also firefighter. And, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people out there who have done this and do this will understand. You remember, but you don't talk about specifics with people because they cannot comprehend what you go through and things you've seen. So it's like PTSD, only not as severe as from war, for example. But there are still hauntings.
I imagine that's the case.
Yeah.
Jeff Hildebrandt, 710 KNUS Cowboy Poet Laureate. What else you got for us, sir?
Well, I tell you, lessons learned. There's some stories about individuals that I think it may relate to people out there. I don't know. Charlie married a woman from up near Milwaukee and said it was rough at the start. He said that her job was to clean and to cook, but she didn't take it to heart at first. Then on the third day, when Charlie came home, he noticed a remarkable change. The house had been cleaned, the dishes were washed, and his dinner was hot on the range. Now, Chester married a woman from up near New Jersey. He said that his wife's a blonde beauty, but he had to keep telling her time and again that cooking and cleaning's her duty. It didn't sink in till about the third day when their lives went from shambles to stable. The house had been cleaned, the windows were washed, and his dinner was there on the table. Now, Bob married a woman from somewhere near Dallas and told her what all he expected, like cooking and cleaning and mowing the lawn, and to make sure he wasn't neglected. The first day, he didn't see anything. He saw nothing the day after that. By the third day, the swelling subsided. Now he has his home duties down pat.
That's a fun one. Good job. Good job. Jeff Hildebrand, 710 KNUS Poet Laureate. We like to spend some time on our Fridays as we wrap up the show going through some of his fun poetry. You can get his poetry at Amazon.com. He's got some books there you can purchase. In fact, we got them here as well. Let's see if I can pull them up.
Well, you're sitting on them.
There we go. Positive Rhymes for Perilous Times. Jeff Hildebrand, and Riding for the Boss and the Brand. Cover art by Don Dane.
Yeah.
All right. What else you got for us, sir?
Okay. The cowboy had a point to make to his pint-sized buckaroo about respecting others and the hard work that they do. When your Uncle Bud was 10, he said, he stopped to get a treat at the soda fountain counter in the drugstore down the street. Sandy was the waitress then. She told the tale to Ma and said it was the sweetest gesture that she ever saw. Bud asked her what a sundae cost. She said it's 50 cents. She saw him count the pocket change, then added his face got tense. How much for some plain ice cream? That's 35, she said. Bud smiled and said he'd ask for chocolate, then for peppermint instead. He was always partial to peppermint, his father told his son. Then he went on with the lessons about what Bud had done. Bud paid and left. Then Sandy went to clear away his bowl. She said to his ma what she saw there just touched her very soul. And as she talked, the tears began to roll down Sandy's face, remembering 2 nickels and 5 pennies by his place. He could have had a sundae, but he settled for 1 dip. He could have thought about himself, but instead he left a tip. The lesson from that cowboy is thank folks for what they do and treat them with the same respect you feel is due to you. Doing unto others should be each cowboy's creed, and if it were, we all would be much better off indeed.
Good reminder out there. Although, do you feel like we tip too much?
I tip over.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like when you buy like a water bottle and they're like, we have some questions for you. And they flip the little thing around. Whenever they say we have some questions, I know I'm getting asked to tip. But do you tip for purchases of water bottles, Bill?
No. Here's the reason why. Okay. Here's the thing. One, I worked in food service for a long time, so I tip well. However, I understand the functionality. If it is, and again, that's that industry, if it's your job to stand behind the counter and hand me the thing I purchased and then run it through the machine, what the hell? What am I tipping you for? I mean, I was in a place that did tea the other day, and I went to the counter, they made the tea, and then I was asked for a tip. No! No extra service was required here. You are performing the functionality of your job. No, I'm not tipping you for that. Now, you want to do something like say, hey, let me escort you over to the table and maybe massage your feet. Okay, now we can talk about something extra. Now we can talk about tips. But when you are performing the base functionality of your job, no. However, unfortunately, the rules we've decided are different in food service, and I'll play by those rules, and I will happily tip extra because I know they're getting screwed based on the wages they're making. So fine.
Now, Jeff Hildebrandt, can I give you a little homework? Can you rewrite that poem to reflect a young Bill Thorpe sitting at the ice cream stand?
Yeah, exactly.
All I can think, Bill, is when you go back and they ask you for a tip, tell them, make it Darjeeling.
There we go. And I love the fact that you brought that in as far as the ice cream store, because there are some old memories, because the neighborhood that I grew up in, we had an OG Dolly Madison. I'm talking about the old soda counter, the soda fountain, the black and white checkered floor, everything about it. I can still tell you exactly what that store smelled like.
Please don't.
And I can tell you exactly what those malts tasted like. Those are some great memories. Those are some great
And
memories.
I see a young Billy sitting at the ice cream store going, tip! What do you mean a tip?
Okay, here's one of the saddest moments of my young childhood is I was staying home after getting, both my parents worked, I was staying home after getting my wisdom teeth removed. They had thrown me some cash that late in the day I can go over to Dolly Madison and I can get myself a banana split. This is fantastic. Now, again, I'm a little bit on the meds. I get a block and a half back from home and I trip over the curb and dump it on the concrete. Yeah. That was very sad.
Should have tipped.
That
All
was,
right,
oh,
it's
man.
karma. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We finish our Fridays with a little cowboy poetry. Jeff Hildebrand got one more for us.
Okay. Merlot, Marsala, Muscatel, Burgundy, Boone's Farm, Zinfandel, Gewürztraminer, Chardonnay, Mad Dog, Ripple, or Rosé. I don't like wine. Sangria, Riesling, any Pinot. The fact is, I can't drink vino. Morgan David, Thunderbird, Cabernet. I know it sounds absurd, but I don't like wine. Chianti, Cognac, Lambrusco. I'd rather just drink H2O than Burgundy or some sort of port. But if I must, my last resort, in order to shut others up, is a splash of wine with 7-Up. I do like 7-Up.
Wine with 7-Up?
That's different.
Am I missing something here? Is that
No,
an inside joke? Or
I haven't hit across that before as far as the wine and 7-Up. I've known people that have done, oddly enough, I've seen ice in wine glasses, but that's a new one. Huh.
What kind of wine do you drink, Bill?
I don't drink a lot of wine, honestly.
You're not a wine guy?
No, not necessarily. Depends on what's there at the time, but no, don't do a lot. How about you?
Malbecs are mine.
I'm sorry. I can't imagine that, Bill, because you're such a whiner. I thought for sure.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Well done, sir.
Way to wrap up the week. Go to 710knus.com to download any of the podcasts. We'll be back next week, fighting as always. You're listening to Denver's Top Talk radio show, The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great